King James, your men, your members of your clan rose. If you didn't rise, you were declared clanless. And that was the most worst thing you could possibly happen to a member of the Highland clan, was to be declared clanless. You were social outcasts. Nobody would give you succour, nobody would give you hospitality. So these gentlemen, they're now going to step forward. The Runrig gentlemen, who, as you can see, are dressed much the same, but it's very poor quality clothing. The jackets might be 4th or 5th hand. They were quite often patched up. There was bog bodies that have been found with sugar sacks sewn on as patches. Clothing was expensive in the Highlands because there was very little production in the Highlands. So they would have clothes that were ill-fitting, often cast-offs of the laird and so on. They're both armed with a sword and a targe. They have no guns at this point in time. After the Battle of Preston Pans, they would have no doubt had a musket, be it French or English taken off the redcoat soldiers. They would have then been armed with a musket and would have continued to fight throughout the rising with a musket. Thank you, gentlemen. We also had a lot of people from the lowlands of Scotland join Charles Edward Stuart. If you'd like to step forward, the gentleman in trousers. It disproved the myth that all the Jacobite army was Highlanders. We have gentlemen wearing the clothes that you would have worn in Preston Pans or Edinburgh. He's got a long jacket, he's wearing breeches, he's wearing a blue bonnet, the Highland bonnet on his head, and we all wear the white Kirkcaldy as a symbol that we support the Jacobite cause. So when Charles Edward landed at Glenfinnan, he plucked a white rose and declared that this was his symbol. Thank you. We also have uniformed troops, if you'd like to step forward, gentlemen. The gentleman with the very posh tricorn and the blunderbuss is a very rich gentleman. He's a member of the Prince's Life Guard. It consists of 200 gentlemen from Scotland who formed a lifeguard for the Prince himself. They were expensively dressed. They had the tartan baldric. He's got a very, very good quality sword. He's also carrying a blunderbuss or musketoon. This is a close quarters weapon and the weapon of a gentleman, believe it or not. Common people carried muskets. The rich gentleman at the end there carried a musketoon, which was basically a big shotgun. And at about 25-30 feet, he would massacre half this crowd. He's very well dressed. He wears a red waistcoat and a blue coat. Don't confuse him as an English soldier or a British soldier because he's wearing red. Red coats were the colour of the British Army. The blue coat is the colour of the Prince's Life Guard. The next gentleman you can see is actually a Scotsman fighting for the King of France. He represents a regiment called the Royal Scots. And they were actually Scotsmen who didn't want to fight for the Hanoverian cause in Britain, but actually went over to France and fought for the French king. When Charles Edward landed, a number of French Scots actually arrived with him and landed shortly afterwards. And there were regiments of the Royalist Scots that fought at Culloden and were one of the few people that were taken prisoner after the Battle of Culloden. They were uniformed troops, they were regular troops. The rest of us in this line after Culloden would have been considered to be traitors. We would have probably been hung, drawn and quartered in the case of Paul, who is a member of the Prince's Life Guard. He would have been hung, drawn and quartered because he's a member of the nobility and the aristocracy. Special treat, he gets hung, drawn and quartered. The rest of us would probably end up being either hung, transported to Tilbury, or sent out to the colonies, where we would have been slaves, basically. But Steve, because he's a member of the Royalist Scots, would have been traded as a prisoner of war and sent back to France. Thank you. Right.